Thank you, Lisa. But now over to fitness of a different kind. On the 19th of December last year, extreme adventurers Braam Malherbe and Peter van Kets left Cape Town to meet up with 14 other competitors from around the world to partake in an epic historic journey, retracing the steps of the first two men ever to have reached the South Pole unsupported and on foot. And you'll be able to catch all the action in a three-part documentary series on SABC3 entitled Cold Sweat. And this morning we have the man himself with us to give us a taste of what it was like. Braam Malherbe, good morning, man. Welcome to Expresso.
Thanks very much. Good to be here.
Yeah, what a journey you've had.
Very much so. What a journey. In hindsight, wouldn't do it again, for sure.
Yeah. Crazy, would you say?
Yeah, my surname is Malherbe, you know.
Malherbe, you know.
Mal, so.
I can see where we're going about it. Listen, let's talk a bit about this journey itself. It's a very historic journey, as I've mentioned. So how did you and Pete, you know, become part of this journey?
I think firstly a huge honour to represent South Africa. It's a centenary of Scott Amundsen's race to the South Pole, 1911-1912. Amundsen and his team won. They ate a huge amount of their dogs, unfortunately, but that's how they survived. Scott and his team, unfortunately, perished literally 11 miles from their final pickup point.
Oh, no.
So they went in with
that on the way back
so
now?
On the way back, yeah. In fact, Pete and I were reading his journal when we were in the Antarctic. Very depressing stuff. And he got to the pole and he says, and I quote, we're at the pole, but under very different circumstances. Now for the long haul home, I fear we won't make it. God bless my men.
Unbelievable.
It was an epic, epic journey. Yeah. So a huge privilege to represent South Africa in doing this with Pete.
Definitely. And how long is this actual journey from start to finish?
We do 120 Ks of basically acclimatization, going through the crevasse fields. Hugely dangerous. You fall down a crevasse, you're pretty much not going to come out. We crossed one of them, and it was very, very frightening. You don't really know you're on it, and you just hear this cracking under your skis, and then this whoosh of the snow dropping from under you, and it can be literally a kilometre deep. So we do 120 Ks of that, and then we are flown into 83 degrees. And from 83 degrees to the pole itself, 768 kilometres.
On foot?
Basically on skis, cross-country skis. Pete and I had never skied until 8 weeks before the start. So we were very much like the Jamaican bobsled team.
Look, that's courageous. That's very courageous. Okay, so you guys left Cape Town on the 19th, yourself and Pete, to meet up with the rest. Where did you go from Cape Town?
In fact, we fly out of Cape Town International on the Russian Ilyushin aircraft. It's like a C-130, the old Hercules with the big tail that opens up.
Sheesh.
A cargo plane. And it's the first time in my life I really, really listened to the safety briefing before landing. And the aircraft flies for 6 hours to Novo, the Russian base, and lands on 1.6 kilometre thick green ice on this runway. And it just sways all over the show. And it was quite a... That was hard enough.
No, I think for someone listening to you, you know, not having experienced something like this, it's hard to fathom. When you guys got there, I mean, it's a barren landscape. It's you know, we were talking a little bit earlier. It's not a human don't belong there.
You're absolutely right. It's known as the most extreme race on the planet. I thought, you know, it's just like a marketing ploy. But when you're there, it pretty much is the most extreme race on Earth. Pete has crossed the Atlantic solo, rowing a boat for 76 days, unassisted at sea. I did with David Greer the Great Wall of China as a world first. This was certainly the most difficult thing we've ever attempted because it's known as the highest, coldest, driest as in there is no rain on the high plateau ever, and windiest desert on Earth. And your altitude is the biggest thing. It's equivalent pretty much to being on top of Kilimanjaro for 24 days. So the race of 768 Ks is just, you're sucking in air. You can't talk for long periods of time. You know, your partner's either in front of you or behind you. It's just daunting. It's sterile. There's literally not even bacteria in the ice. There's nothing there. There's no life.
So on that point, I mean, let's talk through about some of the challenges that you've faced, you know, despite the freezing cold temperatures.
I'm a South African. I don't enjoy the cold. Our average temperature heading towards the pole was minus 45 degrees Celsius. I got frostbite in my fingers, my toes. Pete got frostbite in his face. It's incredibly hostile. It's relentless. That's the big thing. You can't stop. We move for 12 hours a day with 2 15-minute breaks. You're pulling 80 kilograms behind you. So it's totally unsupported. We didn't have dogs pulling us, anything like that. So, you know, if something happens, you're out of the race. You'll either die or they've got to send an aircraft in to pick you up. And incidentally, that aircraft, the British team, the first of the two British teams, The guy got, unfortunately, pneumonia, and they flew a plane in, and the price of that aircraft on a 4-hour flight was 140,000 British pounds. Most expensive fuel on Earth.
Jeez, exactly, and it's also difficult. I'm sure if there was a blizzard or anything like this and they couldn't get you, I mean, it's a risky business.
It is very risky.
Yeah.
It is very risky.
Now, just before we end up, you guys came to the halfway mark, and this is where you had your first bit of relief throughout the challenge, right?
Yeah, if one could call it relief.
Well, yeah.
We saw these little specks on the horizon because there's basically nothing. Your eyes are constantly trying to pick up a focal point. And we saw these little specks, and they were basically the medical tents. And there's this a checkup point where they do blood samples, urine samples, and they ascertain, are you okay to continue? It was a fatal mistake because Pete and I so looked forward to that. But it's only halfway, and it's a lot harder after the halfway mark. It gets colder towards the pole.
Exactly, and another 300-odd kilometers to go.
Correct.
Unbelievable. Braam, thank you so much for coming to share your experiences. Whether or not, you guys did make the South Pole, you guys will have to catch On Cold Sweat. Catch it on the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th of July at 6 o'clock on SABC3. We'll also put some more info on our website, expressoshow.com. You don't want to miss that. We'll see you guys right after the ad break.
Stay with Expresso and SABC3.